In a jaw-dropping twist that's got the internet buzzing, Dipset legend Jim Jones just broke his silence in the most explosive way possible. A live podcast meltdown that has fans reeling. With eyes blazing and voice trembling, he accused his longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin, of the unthinkable, treachery after a suspicious night involving Camron. Was it a betrayal of love, loyalty, or something far darker? The entire hip-hop world is now asking the same question. Did Chrissy cross the line, and has Jim finally had enough? The story didn't start with an explosion. It started with a slow unraveling. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin have long stood as one of hip-hop's most talked-about couples. Their journey, documented in countless episodes of Love and Hip Hop, was filled with ups and downs, dramatic proposals, fights, reconciliations, and years of engagement with no wedding in sight. Through all this, they remained iconic, even when fans questioned the foundation of their bond. But recent months brought a different kind of tension. The public first noticed subtle shifts. Chrissy posted cryptic quotes on Instagram, "Loyalty over love," and "Not everyone deserves your loyalty." Meanwhile, Jim seemed distant, no longer posting pictures with Chrissy, no joint appearances, and no sweet shoutouts that once defined their relationship. Insiders close to the couple said the change started when Jim reconnected with Camron. The two Dipset legends, known for their turbulent friendship, had recently been seen laughing together on a few podcasts and event appearances. For many fans, it felt like a long-awaited reunion. But for those who knew the real story behind the Dipset legacy, there was tension beneath the surface. Camron and Jim have a history as deep as it is complicated. As founders of the Diplomats, they once ruled Harlem and the mixtape scene. But, over time, money disputes, ego clashes, and loyalty tests split them apart. Reuniting was supposed to be a symbol of maturity and growth, but something else was brewing. The moment things took a sharp turn was the now infamous night at a private after-party in Manhattan. According to reports from those in attendance, the energy was strange. Jim left early due to what was described as a business call. Chrissy curiously stayed behind. And Camron? He was reportedly the last to leave, hours after Jim had gone. Social. Media exploded. A few blurry images of Chrissy and Camron exiting the building surfaced. The internet did what it does best, speculate. Blogs ran headlines like, "Is Camron getting too close to Chrissy?" and "Jim Jones betrayed by his inner circle?" Neither Chrissy nor Cam addressed the rumors directly. Jim remained completely silent. But that silence was telling. On an otherwise routine episode of the Jones Effect podcast, everything boiled over. Jim showed up looking restless, with dark bags under his eyes and a guarded demeanor. The host tried to keep things light, but Jim was in no mood. 10 minutes into the show, the conversation turned to loyalty. That's when Jim snapped. Sometimes you give people everything, your heart, your loyalty, your time. And they spit in your face like it meant nothing, Jim said, voice trembling. The hosts fell silent. He continued, "You expect snakes in the grass, but what do you do when the snakes are in your home?" Within moments, he dropped two names. First, Cam, then Chrissy. Cam, "I gave you chance after chance." Chrissy, "I held you down for decades. And this is how I get played?" The podcast chat exploded. Viewers clipped the segment, shared it on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Hashtags like Tonner Jim Jones Breakdown and Time Chrissy Drama began trending. The clip went viral in minutes, sparking debates across fan forums and gossip sites. Was this real? Was Jim just venting? Or had something unforgivable truly happened? One thing was certain. Jim Jones wasn't just lashing out. He was heartbroken, betrayed, and publicly calling out two of the closest people in his life. It was no longer just about relationships. This was about trust, legacy, and what happens when the people you love the most might be hiding the darkest secrets. End of Part 1, 1-200 words. Part 2, Breaking the Brotherhood, 1-200 words. The aftermath of Jim Jones' emotional outburst reverberated throughout the entire hip-hop community. What started as cryptic posts and subtle shifts suddenly evolved into an explosive scandal. But to truly understand the weight of what Jim said, we need to go back to the beginning of the Diplomats. Formed in Harlem during the late 1990s, the Diplomats, better known as Dipset, represented more than just music. They were a movement, a brotherhood. Camron was the charismatic leader, the slick talker with the pink furs and infectious swagger. Jim Jones was the enforcer, the street-smart loyalist who brought authenticity to the brand. Their chemistry birthed a wave of mixtapes and albums that defined an era. But fame and fortune brought ego, and ego brought division. By the mid-2000s, cracks had begun to form. Jim often hinted in interviews that he felt underappreciated, like a soldier who fought the war but was never given a general's stripes. Camron, on the other hand, maintained his aloof persona, rarely acknowledging the internal struggles publicly. Then came the solo runs. Jim released hits like We Fly High and proved he could hold his own without Cam. The separation was messy, and for years, fans never thought they'd share the same stage again. Their recent reunion brought hope, not just to fans, but to those who believe in redemption. Seeing Jim and Cam laugh again, trade stories, and perform side by side felt like history correcting itself. But the night of that after-party changed everything. While Jim never explicitly said that Cam and Chrissy had a romantic entanglement, the implication was heavy, and in hip-hop culture, perception often becomes reality. Blogs and YouTubers began releasing evidence. Alleged DMs between Cam and Chrissy. Witness accounts claiming they'd seen them talking closely at multiple events. One anonymous source said Cam was real friendly with her at a few industry mixers. Too friendly. Camron's camp responded with a vague statement. Cam has always respected Jim and Chrissy's relationship. Anything else is internet fiction. But Jim wasn't having it. He went on Instagram Live just 24 hours after the podcast blow up and dropped more cryptic gems. You don't gotta sleep with someone to cross a line. You just gotta entertain the idea. Loyalty don't bend, it breaks. Fans erupted again. Memes circulated, some mocking, others sympathetic. One tweet read, Jim Jones speaking for every man who's been played by his own people. Meanwhile, Chrissy remained eerily silent. No rebuttal, no post, just a single Instagram story, a black screen with the word clarity. Dipset affiliate Jules Santana posted a neutral reaction, but other members weren't so careful. Freaky Zeke liked a comment on Instagram that said, Cam never been loyal to nobody but himself. It was clear. Whatever trust remained in the Dipset circle had been shattered. Some fans questioned if this entire episode was a marketing stunt, but those closer to the situation insist Jim's pain is real. He's not acting. He's reacting. Podcast. Hosts began dissecting his words like lyrics. YouTubers uploaded hour-long breakdowns. Even radio shows like The Breakfast Club debated the scandal. Charlemagne, the God, remarked, Jim looked like a man who's been holding it in for years. That wasn't about one night. That was about a decade of betrayal. And he might be right, because this wasn't just about Chrissy or Cam. It was about everything. About being the loyal one, the dependable one, the one who stayed silent while others crossed lines. Jim Jones had finally hit his breaking point. End of Part 2, 200 words. Part 3, Fallout fans, and the final. Line, 200 words. By the third day, the scandal was no longer confined to blogs and YouTube channels. It had become a mainstream conversation. TMZ picked it up. Joe Budden broke it down on his podcast. Even casual hip-hop fans found themselves caught up in the drama. Jim's emotional transparency had made him unexpectedly relatable. In an industry built on bravado and walls of pride, he became a man willing to admit he was hurt, and that vulnerability struck a nerve. Chrissy finally broke her silence with a carefully curated Instagram post. A monochrome image of her looking into a mirror captioned, "Unbothered." To many, that was a bold statement. To others, it was tone-deaf. Comments poured in, "Unbothered? After that? Silence isn't innocence. Jim deserves better." Meanwhile, Cam took to his own platform. Not with an apology, not with a denial, but with deflection. He posted a throwback photo of Dipset, captioned, "Some things should stay in the past." The damage, however, was done. In a follow-up episode of The Jones Effect, Jim was calmer but more resolved. He said, "Pain don't make you weak. Holding it in does. I said what I said. If you felt away, maybe that's your guilt talking." He didn't name Cam or Chrissy again. He didn't need to. Fans, however, kept the flames alive. Every clip, every comment, every post became fuel. Even those who had never followed Dipset were suddenly invested. Industry insiders speculated on the professional fallout. Brand deals, collaborations, even future Dipset reunion plans were now in jeopardy. But for Jim, something had changed. He wasn't just the fiery rapper or the loyal partner anymore. He was a man who had chosen his truth over public image. He shared a clip of himself in the studio, recording what fans believe is a diss track. "You watched me bleed and called it loyalty. You smiled at snakes who coiled me. I gave you decades, I gave you soul. Now I give you silence, that's how I roll." The bar went viral. Fans quoted it like scripture. The story may not be over. Time will tell if reconciliation is possible. But for now, one chapter is closed. Jim's final words on the matter? Sometimes the hardest goodbyes are to the people you thought would ride forever. But forever don't mean blind. A line destined for a bar, a book, or a broken heart. The fallout from Jim Jones's podcast confession has opened the floodgates, not just for gossip, but for real conversations about loyalty, trust, and emotional truth in hip-hop relationships. Whether or not Chrissy and Camron crossed the line, Jim's emotional outburst was more than just clickbait. It was the sound of a man who's been holding back for far too long. So what happens next? Will Jim and Chrissy reconcile? Is the Dipset brotherhood forever shattered? Or is this all just the start of a bigger truth waiting to surface? We want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Jim justified in going public? Do you believe Chrissy betrayed him? And what about Camron? Innocent, opportunistic, or guilty as charged? Like, share, and subscribe for more deep dive breakdowns of hip-hop's rawest moments. Because this ain't just entertainment. It's real life unfolding in real time.